Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
You are listening and watching a very, very important live stream to the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan alongside Brandon Piller, and the 218-day process has reached a conclusion.
It's over.
Michael Andlauer will be the next owner of the Ottawa Senators. Pilsy, your immediate reaction?
My immediate reaction is, thank God it's over. We are sick of the update of the Sens ownership update being there is no update. So now we have an official update. Hundreds of days later, it's over. And look, if you ask me, I think the right person won the bid to own the Ottawa Senators, or I should say the right group, because it seemed like all along that Andlauer, everything lined up that made him the preferred bidder, not just for the NHL, not just for the city of Ottawa, but for the fans of the Ottawa Senators. This is a guy that loves hockey. He's involved in hockey for a long time throughout multiple different leagues. He was a part owner of an NHL team already, so he knows the landscape. And I just think that you've said it over and over, Ross, but this will be the best owner of the Ottawa Senators we've seen yet.
Yes, and I said that in part because I was trying to convince myself during the dog days of this sale that it would be. But all along we said it. It's like these guys want the Ottawa Senators to be winners. Isn't that all a fan can ask for? Spend to the cap, get out of the way, hire the right people in the right places. And we have already the rumor mill churning about some people he's bringing with us. And Pilsy, we might have to throw a wrench into our draft coverage because we need to scour the Hamilton Bulldogs OHL team and see if there's any connections we can put together. The one obvious one, Jorian Donovan played under Michael Andlauer's team most recently, had a good year last year, but that's besides the point. The point really is another defenseman formerly in the NHL who will, in all likelihood, be coming to Ottawa. We'll save that for a few minutes because this sale is developing as it comes out. Shout out Bruce Garrioch for breaking the news this morning. He beat Sportico. Like, he told us that he was going to get scooped by Sportico. He texted me at 7 a.m. He's like, because I asked him, I said, should we record later tomorrow? And he said, I don't know. 5 minutes later, he breaks the news on Twitter.
I mean, hey, the news happens fast sometimes. And hey, there's Will Scott. Thanks, buddy. We appreciate that. And Ross, I'm going to take it even further back than you took it. I believe it was May 22nd. Our friend, our colleague, at Lalim's Martian tweeted out that Michael Andlauer will be the new owner of the Ottawa Senators, and people laughed. The reporters said, oh, maybe stick to the streets. We'll do the real reporting here. And they speculated and they tried to figure it out. But our guy at Lalim's Martian had it. He had the intel. The streets do not miss.
The streets don't miss. And
don't miss.
Ian Mendes, like, what a community here. Like, a lot of people say that Mendes, Garrioch, they've got some sort of, below the surface thing. It's like,
Samuel,
it's all good. Cheers, man. Everyone's so nice. And it's just kind of the Sens community. So, you know what? Ian throwing a little streets don't miss in his tweet. Like, this guy's got 80,000 followers on Twitter, and he doesn't have to be doing that. But
hey, the streets are more than 80,000 strong, Ross.
Yeah. 100% they are. Then they're 1,000 strong. He's getting pulled over on the side of the road going to work in Ottawa, and he's going to join us here on Locked On Senators in about 20 minutes. The guy had to do a work meeting? You kidding me?
You kidding me? I mean, we're up here in our suits. We're ready to go, and Martian's got a real job or something. What the hell's that?
We've got a lot more to get to, but we've got a very important question here from Dylan. Are you wearing suit pants?
I'm wearing sweatpants. I wasn't going to reveal that. But Ross, I will say, I got the business watch out. The Fitbit is over here. Not worried about that. It's business time. Let's go.
I'm wearing bird dogs.
I'm surprised you're not wearing your, attaboy, for the advertisers. I'm surprised you're not wearing your patented Ross Levitan robe folded halfway down and tied around the waist with a shirt on top. That would have been all time.
That is classic. Maybe I'll do that when he takes over the team officially, because right now, Michael Andlauer, he's been named the preferred bidder. Now, I think he's also the preferred bidder.
Don't do this to us, Ross.
No, don't worry. I'm going to calm you right now. Jeff Molson is probably the most powerful owner in the National Hockey League. Fair to say?
Yeah.
Bill Foley might have something.
I was gonna say it's a fair comment. Yes, you could argue it, but it's a fair comment. Yep.
Well, Michael Andlauer has been a part owner of the team that Jeff Molson owns the last 10 years. I think it will be pretty easy for him to convince the Board of Governors that he should be the next owner of the Ottawa Senators. Of course, negotiations are in its final stage. $950 million, Pilsy. No word yet on that, if that includes the capital gains tax that we had to discuss yesterday. And, I got to apologize. I believe it was Patrick. I haven't gotten to it. Yes, Patrick DeRoche. I asked, and Patrick delivered. I needed the rundown on what the heck this is. But now that the deal's done, I don't know if we need it that much anymore. Now we're all set.
Yeah, I mean, they talked about it on 32 Thoughts podcast. The capital gains is wild, and that is something that I'm a little bit familiar with. But the thing is, and I'm probably not 100% honest, but this is the gist, and they talked about it on 32 Thoughts, is the fact that Melnyk bought the team for $93 million. I think that was $93 million US.
The arena.
Yeah, with the arena back in the day, and now it's being sold at it's estimated $950. The capital gains on that is astronomical. So I can't anticipate that's part of the deal that has been agreed upon, because I just think that would be wild for the Andlauers to have to hold on to. But we'll see, I guess.
This is why we wanted to go live. And I need to confirm it. Yes. Interesting. RDS and the chat is reporting that Patrick Waugh has just resigned as head coach of the Quebec Rempart.
Weird timing. Yeah, I mean, this is all happening now. This is legit. Things are in motion now, and the streets.
Hey, breaking news per Graham, Sensual Healing, our guy, and the Lamborghini as well. We're giving the credit to the chat here, not RDS.
The streets have also reported that.
Well, the word around Windsor is DJ knows that the winds of change are coming to Ottawa. Now, what really kind of gets me curious, and I want to know the chat's thoughts on this as well. What happens with Pierre Dorion? Because we've both been on record that Pierre Dorion should have a job next year in the organization. Now, even as recently as the start of last year, or I think it was the year before, where everyone's like, oh yeah, the Senators are looking for a president of hockey ops over and over and over again. And we're like, you know what? That's good. Like Pierre Dorion, I think at the heart of it is a scout more than anything.
Yep.
He's done, I think, a good job in taking some swings. Have they all been home runs? No, he's struck out a few times. Matt Murray, Cam Talbot come to mind quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But he's also hit a few home runs. Sure, luck played a factor in the Erik Karlsson one.
Be lucky to be good.
But most recently, the Chychrun trade, I think, is just an objectively good move. He's been making a few of them. So I'm curious if it's like, okay, I want to bring in my guy, and we're teasing it. We'll get to who we believe Michael Andlauer will be bringing in and all of his credentials and why it makes sense. But I hope that there's a role for Pierre Dorion next year.
Yeah.
I don't know how easy it is to be like, hey, can we demote you? Or if it's something where it's just like you put somebody in place as the president of hockey operations above them, if you want to kind of make sure that your guy is pulling the strings.
I think that's the right move, Ross. Like why not do that? The Ottawa Senators have not had a presence of hockey operations for a long time. Is there any other team that doesn't operate like that? I believe most, if not all teams, have president of hockey GM kind of structure.
Not Arizona.
I mean, we're talking about real teams here, Ross. But
not a January night in Arizona. You can't win that with 26 turnovers.
Definitely not. But the thing is, I think this team needs that kind of structure. And look, obviously, are we biased? Pierre Dorion has come on our show twice. He's been
and is pending to come on again.
and is pending to come on again. He's been very great to us. We love covering a Pierre Dorion run team because he makes more trades than any other general manager. So he keeps things exciting. That's for sure. And he just seems like a genuine guy that is passionate about not only hockey, but the Ottawa Senators. He's put his blood, sweat, and tears into this team since when was he brought onto this team? 06?
No, I actually tweeted out. People got a kick out of this stat. Only 1 year since 1998 has neither Peter Chiarelli or Pierre Dorion been a part of the Sens. They made it for the Cup final that year. So Chiarelli left after 06, and then Dorion was hired as chief amateur scout in 2007 September.
Okay. So
right
2007.
now,
So
yeah.
That's a long time. So I think definitely that he deserves, and like he's put so much work into creating this roster that I believe he deserves a chance to see it through. And should he be on a short leash? Maybe if you're the new owners and you want to change things. But I really think the best move would be to have him as general manager and then have a new president of hockey come in above him.
Pillsy, put in a smile right now. All right, sweet. Needed to get that for the old socials, but we are
right.
GC Poppy per Sylvain Saint-Laurent, who we respect, friend of the show as well.
Yes,
still says Dorion is out. Andlauer bringing a lot of his new staff.
Yeah, I anticipate a lot of reports will say that, and it could very well be true. But that's the thing: you spend $950 million, you go through this whole process, and we got to call a spade here. Pierre Dorion has not had the greatest success record with this team. Now, mind you, a lot of that time was rebuilding, so that's fair. But now this team is built for playoffs, and you want to bring in your own people that you believe can help this playoff-ready roster not only get to the playoffs, but have deep playoff runs consistently here. So I wouldn't blame the new ownership, the Andlauer group, at all if they want to just clean house and start something new, because the times are changing. This is a new era here for the Ottawa Senators.
It certainly is. And the Senators just 20 minutes ago, right when we're starting this stream, did tweet out the announcement. So it is as official can be. I'll just go a quick once over on this announcement for anyone who wants some more deeper details. And then we're going to get into who the potential new general manager of the Ottawa Senators is going to be. And then we have to circle back on the Patrick Waugh conversation because the timing is too peculiar. Pilsy, we didn't think that the new owner, no matter who it was going to get the keys until September, October, later on, once the 60 to 90 day period to really, take the reins of this thing. I wonder if that was waived where it's like, hey, and the Melnicks are keeping 10%, right? So they're still a part of this. It would be kind of silly for them to be like, no, you can't have your say until then. If this is the guy who's going to own the team and you want your team to be successful, because that's good for your 10% shares as well, it would be foolish not to allow them to start making moves that they feel is going to put your team on the right path. Otherwise, they're inheriting something that's a little bit further gone. And there's decisions that need to be made. Alex Brinkett needs a new contract or to be traded. They need to get on this ASAP. So the board of directors, this is the quote from the press release. The board of directors announced today the entity controlled by Michael Andlauer, meaning him and his partners, has agreed to purchase 90% of and operational control of the Senators. As we've reported before, Melnick Estate will keep 10%. Subject to approval, Andlauer will assume controls of the organization's operations. And it goes on and on and on. Andlauer has more than 35 years of experience in the transportation and logistics industry. Can he help on the LTR?
Does he know about light rail transit?
Yeah, LRT. My bad, I said LTR. He's the founder and CEO of Andlauer Health Group, a TSX-listed leading supply chain management company. Pilsy, should we buy some stocks in Andlauer Healthcare or what?
Yeah, not a bad idea.
To the moon. To the moon. Great question from Bryson. Can Andlauer be at the draft? I would say probably not, is my guess.
Yeah, the only reason I would hesitate there is because of his relationship with the Montreal Canadiens, and maybe that's too soon. I don't know.
Well, it sounds like he's already, previous to being accepted on this bid, he knew that DevCore guy, Desmier, I might be mispronouncing it. That guy wanted to buy the Sens for a little while back a few years.
Who doesn't want to buy the Sens?
Ryan Reynolds.
Well, he did.
You want to go down the list? Thoughts and prayers, by the way, to the Nico Sparks group. I'm very curious to hear what the next story is. Oh, they've added Oprah to their bid.
Oh no. Here we go.
It's not over.
Yeah, it's not over. It's never over.
So them and the Kimmels wanted to buy this team, and both of them were clearly good bids if they're in it this long. And here's what I'll say. Don't be surprised when the Arizona Coyotes move if maybe those two groups circle back, because they clearly, if they were in this for 218 days, they want an NHL team. So I don't think that they're just going to quit because they didn't get your Ottawa Senators. So
and those are the groups, Ross, that it just seemed like their priority was owning an NHL team.
Yeah.
Whereas with the Andlauer group, it seemed like his priority was owning the Ottawa Senators.
And who doesn't want that? I think as a fan, that's all you can really ask for, is being in a position where you know that the owner wants to win as much as you do. And Michael Andlauer is no stranger to winning. This guy hoisted the OHL championship just a couple of years ago.
Yep. He's
also been the guy who was, I believe, at the reins of the Hamilton Bulldogs back in the day when won a Calder Cup, but I could be wrong on that. So we have a statement from Michael Andlauer. My family and I are very excited to be part of the Ottawa Senators Hockey Club. I believe the Senators fan base is one of the most passionate in the league. Pilsy, 270 people on a live stream at 10:30 in the morning on a Tuesday in June.
What's up, guys?
Can check that. Yep, very passionate. I'm excited to take the franchise's success both on and off the ice to the next level. The short and long-term future of the team is incredibly bright, and I look forward to getting to know the team, the fan base, and the community. First and foremost, he'd like to thank his wife and family for their support. Thanks to both the NHL and the Melnick family for providing me with the opportunity to make this dream a reality. Thank you to my equity partners on the transaction who, like me, are committed to bringing success to the National Capital Region. I would also like to thank my financial advisors. Okay, very cool. So,
I mean, probably a good idea to thank those guys if you got $950 worth of money to put up for a sports team.
But we could put up $950. You missed an important word there.
What was it?
Million?
Oh, yeah, million, yeah.
Yeah, he got $950. Like,
woo!
Let's go. Let me reach into the bedside table. No, it's awesome. It's awesome to see there. Dashy's fired up. Oh, Mary J's is smoking one up this morning. Tell you that for free. We've actually got a little celebratory something as well. I just want to finish my coffee. Once the Martian comes in, we got the champagne rolling. We will be getting to that, so stick with it. But we got lots of hockey discussion on this as well. I know we've been teasing it. Should we get to the most likely GM of the Ottawa Senators, or do you want to go to Patrick Waugh? Because if you're just joining us, Patrick Waugh has just resigned from his job with the Quebec Rempart, a job he's had since, well, he had it, then went to the NHL, and then came back. Like,
and
the timing is just, it's hilarious.
Does he own that team?
I know he's the GM and head coach. I don't think he's the owner.
So, I mean, for him to step down from a position like that, like, he's not just doing that because he wants to retire or he's sick of the team coming off a Mem Cup win. Like, he's doing that because he is ready to move on to bigger and better things. I mean, it's got to be that he's preparing to become a head coach in the NHL, and more specifically, your Ottawa Senators.
Yeah. Very interesting. Now, after the game, he kind of announced that this was, on June. This is Wikipedia, so grain of salt. But apparently, Patrick Waugh had previously announced that this was going to be his last year's head coach there.
Okay.
The timing of it is very interesting.
Very interesting. Well, maybe he had also is a follower of @Leams Martian, is like, hey, Michael Andlauer is going to own this team.
So in 2014, wow, he sold the team in 2014.
Okay, I knew he was an owner at some point.
For $25 million. Put that in perspective with the NHL deal we were just doing right now. Right? Wow. Today, I leave my functions with the feeling of accomplishment. Patrick Waugh. That's a direct quote from RDS. So, if it is Patrick Waugh, what are you expecting from the next Sens bench boss?
I hope it is Patrick Waugh. And I know I've seen people in the chat and some people on Twitter are not interested in it, but I think those people are thinking about the Patrick Waugh from 8 years ago when he coached the Avalanche and was let go early on in his second season after winning a Jack Adams Award for the NHL's best head coach. I just think that this is a guy that's going to be able to bring so much experience. And Ross, I truly believe, and not just because we're a hashtag goalie friendly show, but I believe that goalies are some of the best hockey minds in the business. That's why we see so many goalies as color commentators, as rinkside analysts. And I think that finally the Ottawa Senators are going to have a head coach that understands goalies in a time where that's probably the biggest missing piece for this team is, can we get some sort of goalie tandem to work? We don't have to rely on 7 goalies next season, hopefully. And we have a coach that understands that position better than anyone. He's one of the greatest goalies ever. So I am fully in.
And he told Montreal to kick rocks too. I
love that. Yeah, he was their guy, and then he was like, "No, actually, you guys
left me in for 8 goals against. You embarrassed me. I'm never playing another game here ever."
Yeah, he's a Habs hater. You gotta love that.
And then the franchise is like, "No, please let us retire your number."
Yeah, so we'll take Patrick Waugh, one of their greatest goalies, and we'll also take minority owner of the team, and we'll turn that into something successful. That will be great. And I mean, having bilingual head coach, always good in Ottawa.
Oh, you know what I would say a bilingual head coach in Ottawa is?
That's absolutely sick.
It's absolutely sick.
Yes, absolutely. So I fully support Patrick Waugh as the next head coach of this team.
Me too. And you know what? If there's one thing about Patrick Waugh that shines through, it's the competitiveness. A 1-10-1 November, I just don't see how it would happen under a coach like Patrick Waugh.
Look, some people point to the fact that he's fiery, that's a bad thing. I see that as a good thing in a coach. I want my coach, because look, we've said it. DJ Smith, and I want to give. Look, this is not the end of DJ Smith. Nothing has been announced, but it certainly seems that it's heading that way. DJ Smith was, thank you, Patrick. We appreciate you. Patty Waugh to the promised land. DJ Smith was the right coach at the right time for this team. It's a new era now. I believe that this team doesn't need the fun uncle players coach anymore. They need a guy that all he cares about is winning, a guy that has won, and a guy that will stop at nothing to win. And Patrick Waugh, as a player, at least, I'll speak on that. I think it's pretty clear he was one of the most competitive players in that era. And he's got the stats, he's got the trophies, he's got the rings to prove it. So I'm all in for Patty Waugh. Let's go.
And a potential interview on Locked On Senators.
I mean, that would be electric. That would be
absolutely electric. It would also be electric if we can get some special guests on here. I'm just sending the link to all the insiders. I said, hey, if you have a second.
And tell him to wear a suit.
No, I'm not going to tell Ian Mendes to wear a suit. He's going to look just perfect no matter how he is.
Okay, fair.
Okay, we've gone 23 minutes. We haven't mentioned it. Steve Dangle, who it's the first and probably the last time we're ever going to use him as a source on this show. But I do believe he is in the know, especially on something like this. Steve Staios is going to have a huge role with the Ottawa Senators. It's classic. Owner brings in a guy he knows. Steve Staios was the GM with the Hamilton Bulldogs. And not just, I don't want to call it nepotism because they're not related, but you know what I mean? Where it's like previous relationships.
Friendship tour. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we know about the friendship.
Nothing wrong with being friends, guys.
A lot of people think that thought even before this deal that he was going to be a future NHL GM and that he has what it takes. He's done a lot of work over the years and he's working right now in some capacity. I think special assistant to the GM, almost like that Jason Spezza-esque role with
the Oilers.
With the Oilers. So that's something to keep an eye out for.
Ross, I've got a quote here that I think Sens fans are going to love. So this is from the Hamilton Bulldogs website. October 6th, 2022, Steve Staios joins Edmonton Oilers as special advisor. Whatever. But here's the paragraph I want to read. Hired by Hamilton Bulldogs owner Michael Andlauer, Ottawa Senators owner, in 2015 as president of the team following 3 seasons as manager of player development with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Boo. Staios added the general manager role prior to 2016-2017 season. This is it, Ross, right here. Ready? Has led the Bulldogs to unparalleled success since.
Stop it.
That is a direct quote. Staios has led the Bulldogs to unparalleled success since. I don't know about you guys, but I've been hoping, wishing, waiting, praying for unparalleled success ever since it was promised to us. That's a guy that has unparalleled success attached to his name. Let's go.
Oh my God, that is unreal. He has that had to be like the final. It's between the Kimmels, the Andlauers. We got unparalleled success.
Yeah.
Where do I
you guys want some of that?
Where do I sign? What a quote right there.
Man.
Vizsla appreciating it as well. What do you say we hear from the streets, guys? Should we get the streets? Oh my God. And Ian Mendes coming up in about 15 minutes.
No way. Oh man, that's perfect. Ross, I don't know about you, but I'm getting a little thirsty. Maybe we can
well, when Martian comes on, because we got to cheers to Martian.
True. Martian deserves it.
He had this on May 22nd.
I'm so fired up right now, Ross.
I'm so fired up.
We were both in bed still, and then we're like, oh my God, it's happened. Let's get our suits on. Let's get champagne. Let's get beer. Ross, I once said the home opener was the greatest Tuesday of my life. This is now the greatest Tuesday of my life.
Is it really?
It honestly, not to get too deep, but this is a great day for me. The Ottawa Senators have sold to the preferred bidder. It is my anniversary with my girlfriend today, and I'm going to take a picture with the sold sign in front of the house I just bought. So this is a great Tuesday for me. Not gonna lie.
Oh, I got bad news for me, Pillsy. It's not the best Tuesday for me.
Why?
Because I gotta share this here. I was born on a Tuesday, Pills. I was born on a Tuesday, brothers. So no dice there, but congrats.
That might have been a rough Tuesday for you.
And happy anniversary. Mine's on Friday too. So nice of the Sens to get the sale all wrapped up for that. And the funny part of you getting a house possessed before me, even though I signed 3 years ago, it's absolutely hilarious. But the Ottawa Senators sale has taken even longer than that. So let's just say. And Tony Ferrari says it's just a coincidence that Patrick was stepping down from coaching the Quebec Rampart. So coincidence, apparently. I don't buy coincidences.
Guy wearing a suit like this, not buying coincidences.
Oh. What did you say earlier? You make your own luck.
I said you got to be lucky to be good, but you make your own luck. That could be a Pillsy quote as well.
I love it. I'm so excited, man. This is honestly the dawn of a new era in Ottawa Senators hockey.
Yep. Welcome to your Michael Andlauer years, Sens fans. What's
the first move made by Michael Andlauer?
I mean, it's gotta be the DeBrincat. You
don't think it's an off ice?
No, because Patrick Waugh could be a sought after coach. There's still a lot of teams looking for a head coach, so that might be a thing. But I mean, your head coach, you could get your new head coach in June or August. Doesn't really make that much of a difference. Well, I guess you probably want him there for dev camp, but as far as like front burner timing sensitive things, the head coach can wait, in my opinion, unless you think Patrick Waugh might end up somewhere else if you don't snag him right away. So it's got to be the DeBrincat stuff. Ross, we know as well as anyone, the draft is rapidly approaching, and I believe they need to figure out what's going on with DeBrincat before the draft for both parties.
Oh, they need to know soon. The most ideal situation is a team friendly ish, like an 8x8, something like that. Right away. That's how you come in hot.
Yeah, but look, if Alex DeBrincat doesn't want to be here long term, I don't want him here long term.
Fact. No, I think that's very fair.
We got guys that want to be here long term, that have put their money where their mouth is, and they've signed long term. And we've said it. Alex DeBrincat is either the 5th or 6th most impactful forward on this team. If he doesn't want to be here, we don't need him.
No, but if he wants to be here, sign him up.
He's stated he doesn't want to be here, although there's conflicting reports. Our guy Steve Warren did mention that the opposite is true. But if the opposite was true, put pen to paper. Let's go.
Right, but I wish we knew what the offer was. Like, why hasn't that leaked? Leak me the offer.
I don't know, Ross. I don't know anything, but I anticipate that.
Good sales pitch for the live stream. Stick around. We don't know anything.
I mean, I don't like to lie to people. I would anticipate that they haven't even gotten to the point of making a long-term offer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, they have to have discussed numbers. They have to at least have discussed what it would take.
But I'm saying an official offer has not been written down and pushed across the table. I don't think so.
Yeah. And shout out Jack Richardson is giving a shout out to Ryan Reynolds and Snoop Dogg for the free global exposure. The Sens were talked about on the Tonight Show and First Take for free.
It's true. Yeah. I mean, anytime the Ottawa Senators are talked about, it's global exposure.
And we also need to find a way to get that Death Row Records Ottawa Senators collab still, despite the fact he's not going to own the team. That was fire.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm actually going to take a look. Do you think? No, Snoop definitely doesn't even run his own Instagram. I'm curious if the how do I say it? The lust for the Ottawa Senators that he kept posting, like the shout out to the First Nations of Canada. We made a deal. I'm curious if he's going to delete those. Do you think or no?
No, I don't think so.
He's posted 45 times this week. I'm not scrolling all the way there. And Alan, there is no celebrity involved with this team.
No.
Unless you want to count Jeff York. I mean, Farm Boys, quite the brand.
Huge.
But no celebrity involved. Pilsy, what's your take on that? Like, we heard Ryan Reynolds. We heard Snoop Dogg. We heard The Weeknd. We heard 45 other people from the Nico Sparks group that are celebrities. Like, does it matter to you that at the end of the day, there is no celebrity attached to the Senators right now?
Not one bit. This is an NHL hockey team. I don't need gimmicks. I don't need showboating. I don't need Instagram likes. I don't need, this team doesn't need to have followers. Like, show me a team that can win the Stanley Cup. I don't care if The Weeknd, Drake, Oprah, or Michael Spezza is attached to this team. All I want is a Stanley Cup winning hockey team. That's all I want.
Well, and that's what Michael Andlauer wants. And that's why from May 22nd, when the Streets reported and our episode came out that day, we took the Streets report and ran with it because the Streets don't miss. Now, Patrick Waugh on Michael Andlauer. Okay. So this is a live press conference right now for Patrick Waugh. Before we get to it, we do have to finish off this conversation about the celebrity owner and Alan Wallen. We really appreciate you jumping on here, asking that question. And I think the key is, and people are going to probably pull up clips of us talking about Ryan Reynolds and how great that is. We as fans, and that's not to say that it can't be done with Michael Andlauer at the helm. Fans just want behind the scenes content on this team. And that was the biggest sales pitch. And obviously we've seen the success on pitch that Wrexham has had. But really, I think Sens fans are just very interested in getting behind the scenes, like a behind the B is what the Boston Bruins do. I think it would be so good to expand the brand and all that great stuff. So I really hope that there's still a way that the Senators can make that a reality.
And the thing, Ross, is Ryan Reynolds made sense as a guy attached to this team. Snoop Dogg, don't give me all this stuff. You love Ottawa and Ottawa loves you. Yeah, you might have been here a couple times for Blues Fest, but I'm not buying that a West Coast rapper loves Ottawa and has emotional attachments to the capital city of Canada. The Weeknd is obviously a Toronto guy, so that's a little closer, I guess. But Ryan Reynolds was the guy. And speaking of the guy, Mr. Streets.
The Streets are here.
And Laleem's Martian. Buddy,
ovation for the Martian.
Yeah, first innovation. I'm not standing. I got sweats on, so I'll just
boys. No ovation necessary here. We've got lots of people in Ottawa who have been reporting on this much harder than I have. I just happen to have a few birdies in the mix here, so the full credit's got to go to Garriock and Ian Mendes and Sportico and the people who have been really on the pulse of this every day, all day. I just happen to get a few nuggets fall in my lap. It's funny how the world works. It's kind of small, but
all right, Martian, there's your politically correct statement. You're a great man. We all respect you, but let's get to this. How good must this feel? Because you must have had hundreds of people messaging you, replying to your tweet saying, this kid doesn't know anything. Leave this up to the real reporters. What does @Lalim's Martian know about this? Like, that's got to be kind of validating for you, being like, no, I had it. I was the only one bold enough to tweet it out like that weeks ago. And you stood by it, man. You stood by it.
Hey, let's be real here, Pillsy. I put my balls on the line a little bit with that, because I wouldn't have tweeted it out unless I was pretty confident that it was something that was going to happen. And based on just, the relationships that I had and who I was speaking with and their relationship directly with Andlauer, I felt pretty good about it. So I went ahead and rolled with it. But I'm not saying I was never nervous, in the weeks following, because I did think it was going to happen a lot quicker. I'm not sure what exactly the holdup was, but the confidence that was coming from, directly from Mr. Andlauer that I had secondhand, I felt pretty good to roll with it. But here's the thing about the people who doubted it, Pillsy. When they see somebody who's an anonymous Twitter account tweeting something like that out and they don't understand, they just don't get that the streets don't miss, Pills.
They don't get it. They don't know that the streets don't miss.
When the streets give you gold, you just got to go with it. So that's all I did. Nothing.
Well, and that's the thing, Martian. Like, you really put the streets don't miss on the line there, because this is arguably the biggest scoop you could get. You thought you were confident you had it, and you could have used wording like, maybe Andlauer will get it, or he's the front runner, or he's ahead right now. No.
Or I'm guessing, or in my opinion.
Exactly. You didn't use any of those precursors.
When I put the streets tag on something, that's me basically saying I'm pretty positive that this is going to happen. So
hell yeah.
Look at all the muted comments from Ross over here.
Classic.
No, but hey, that's hey, I feel like you're getting a lot more positive reaction than
true. That's because people have seen the track record of the streets. Most people that get it.
If you know. There's probably a few in there that maybe say you don't know what you're talking about. But for the most part, people trust the streets like I do. So and that's the other thing too, right? It's not me going and doing some investigative journalism like somebody like Bruce would be doing or Ian. I'm really just, trusting people who are in my circle who happen to have connections within, certain groups and who were part of this process. So there's a few different little angles that I had on it.
Oh no, what will Russell Peters do now?
I mean,
but yeah, no, honestly, guys, this is just to get into it, this is probably my top choice for ownership after the Remington group had dropped out, right? Andlauer is the one who cares the most about the hockey side of things. I feel like there was no alternative angle for him with real estate plays or anything like that. His group is relatively small if you count the York and the local investor group as kind of just one entity instead of I know there's about 20 different guys and girls who were involved in that investment group, but his bid was a good solid group who is known by the league and who cares about the hockey side more than anything. And as a fan, what more do you want than an owner who's going to try to bring a winning team first? Everything else will come with that, right? If they win, they're going to sell out. If they sell out, they're going to make more money. If they make more money, they're going to have more opportunity to do things that they want to be able to do. And on top of all that, everything I've heard about Mr. Andlauer himself is extremely positive stuff when it comes to his personality, how he treats his staff, how he treats the players. All that stuff is going to go a long way because, of course, that's a far cry from what we're used to here in Ottawa as well.
Martian, this is for you, buddy. This is for you. This is for the city of Ottawa. And it really is a new era. And we already had our takes. Pills and I already gave our takes. We want yours.
Yeah.
You believe that Steve Staios will be named the Senators' next general manager? Do you think he's in a different role in hockey ops?
Yeah, I think that there's a really good chance that he's going to be involved, right? Like the ties between him and Andlauer are impossible to ignore with the Hamilton Bulldogs and him being, I believe, the coach and GM there for Andlauer previously. So the connections are obvious, but I don't know if they're going to go with giving him the GM job right away. They easily could. I'm not sure. That all depends on how confident they are that he'll be able to come in as a rookie GM and do the job and not make any mistakes. Go ahead and pop that bottle, Ross.
I've been wanting to. Oh, a new era here, fellas.
9:38 local time for Ross.
Yeah. No, 9:58, guy. You got your 3 and your 5 mixed up.
Oh yeah. Anyways,
a reflection in the streets. It's flipped. Mirror.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think that there's a pretty a good chance that Steve Staios is going to be on the hockey ops team one way or another. My guess is probably I could see them. I don't know. I think that I can see them using him in like an AGM role or like a special assistant to the GM who kind of has that big relationship with the ownership side, where he can maybe kind of be a little bit of a relay or a pulse check guy for Andlauer instead of him hounding the GM or things like that. I'm not sure how that'll all work out, but it'll be interesting to see what they do with the GM side of things for sure. I mean, I obviously think that Dorian's done a really good job. I know there's other people who think differently. I think, once the handcuffs were kind of off him and he was able to make the moves that he wanted to be able to make and he was enabled, he was, I think, really good. We even saw some people who were, who were talking about possibly nominating him for GM of the year last year with some of the moves he made in the offseason. The summer Dorian was a real thing. I know the outcome wasn't there, but I do think he's made some really good moves, and it would be kind of disappointing or I guess I don't know if that's the right word, to see him have to leave the team at this time when he really is the one who built it.
How often do we see that, Martian? Like, that's not
No, you see it you see with Stevie Y, right? Same thing happened to him.
Well, Brian Murray built the team that beat him in the final. That's
another good one. Yeah, Anaheim, right? So it does happen all the time, but it is that's the business side of things. It's kind of tough. This team is his resume. If he does get let go and he needs to find another job, I think that's a pretty good resume to have. Is the the rebuild that he just did. If there's another team that wants to rebuild, I don't know if he'd be open to doing that, but
he's a rebuild specialist.
He is a rebuild specialist at this point, so that's not a bad tag to have. If you have a specialty like that in any role, then you're going to be valuable as an asset for other groups and other companies. So we'll see how it goes down. They might end up keeping him though. You never know.
We teased this right before we had you on, Martian. So it's time we get the exact quote from Patrick Waugh. Should I read it en français or should I do the old?
Wait, before you do that, let's have a quick cheers.
Cheers.
Michael Andlauer, the newest owner of the Ottawa Senators. Cheers. Woo!
Cheers to everyone who's joining us here on a Tuesday morning.
Cheers to the chat. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I need to open that up. I can't see.
Martian, it's Pilsy's anniversary today.
It is.
Hey, happy anniversary.
Thanks. It's the greatest Tuesday of my life.
Is that why you're wearing the suit?
Well, we're talking business, so that's why we're wearing the suit.
Business call, Martian. I guess
I got the business watch on, Martian.
Yeah,
it's real.
Fitbit is to the side.
You guys look really good.
Thank you.
And it's the 13th. I'm getting married in 2 months today.
Yes.
You boys will all be out here, so it'll
we'll
be great.
All be out there.
Okay, let's get to the quote. Everyone's like, nobody gives a shit that you're getting married, Ross. Is Patrick Waugh coaching the Sens or not? Well, this is the direct quote. And what a timing that Patrick was having his press conference this morning to step down.
Coincidence.
And we should mention too that this was always the plan, I think, for Patrick Waugh. He was always
Martian, don't do this. Don't let facts get in the way of a good story.
Going to be stepping down at the end of this season. I think it's time for that, right?
No,
it is coincidental though, and it's hilarious timing. But I'm not saying that means that he's not coming, because I think I've tweeted it out before. I think he if they do let go of DJ Smith, which I think they will, he's the front runner to become the next head coach.
Yeah.
Go ahead and read that quote.
Oh, you ready?
I'm ready.
Patrick Roy sur Michael Andlauer, le nouveau propriétaire des Sénateurs. Oui, je le connais bien.
Oui.
Je ne sais pas s'il va m'appeler, mais c'est un chic type. That means
Je ne pas comprendre.
so he was asked about Michael Andlauer, and he says, I know him well. I don't know if he's going to call me, but he's a really nice guy.
He's gonna call you.
Hey, I also think Michael Andlauer is a really nice guy, and I don't know if he's going to call me.
Il t'appelle. He will call you.
He's gonna call you. Pick up
Steve
the phone,
Staios.
Pat.
I think I'm more intrigued by Steve Staios because he would be the guy if it is a GM, and I'm not saying it is. He'd be a guy who's pulling the strings here, and I don't know too much about him.
Have they ever played together?
He's a shutdown defenseman in the NHL.
No, I don't think Staios and Waugh played together.
No, he didn't. But you know who did play with Steve Staios for a couple years, I want to say? Friend of the show, Jamie Noodles McLennan. We might have to get Noodles on
True.
to discuss. I think they would have played a little bit in Edmonton or no, sorry, not Edmonton. Noodles is from Edmonton. In Calgary? I might have just made that up completely. I messed up yesterday.
Yeah, can't say I know Steve Staios' hockey.
Staios played for the Flames.
Dude, Staios played 1,001 NHL games.
Ooh, nice.
This guy, I mean, he's been around. I mean, he got a bit of Chris Phillips syndrome there. The last year was -19 in 65 games, 8 points. But you know what? I think that we have to look more so at what his credentials are as a team staff member. I know that we've talked about it with Patrick Waugh, and what I'll say about that, it's more so just like the immediate respect that Patrick Waugh would have walking into an NHL dressing room. I think that his player accomplishments do have a little bit of, like, they precede him into the room. Everyone knows the aura of Patrick Waugh and, you know, the fiery competitor that he is. So I think from that standpoint, it's worth mentioning. But of course, you don't need to be a good player to be a good coach. I mean, just look at John Cooper, most namely, and a lot of other guys around the league. So when you're looking at Steve Staios, is a consultant for the Toronto Maple Leafs, was his first gig. But beyond that,
You gotta start somewhere.
you got to start somewhere. Used it as a bouncing off tool. He's been the president and general manager of the Hamilton Bulldogs from 2015 all the way through until last year when he moved to become the special assistant to Ken Holland in Edmonton. So he's got, 7 years of general managing experience? He was even an assistant coach for the Leafs for one season. That's interesting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I believe when he was working for the Leafs is when Andlauer pulled him over to Hamilton after he had purchased the Bulldogs, right?
Right.
That timing is right. So yeah, he was his guy in that, in that adventure. So he could do it again. It could happen.
Martian, do you think that that these moves, if it's Staios, if it's someone else, that they're made before the draft, or is that way too soon?
I don't know if they're going to be able to make the moves that they want to make until it's, closed, right? I don't know how long that will take. So
I think what I was saying to Pilsy off the top too is if it's not closed yet, but the Melnicks are keeping 10%, they should want what's best for the organization.
yeah, they may be able to run it through that way. That
Right.
could be a nice little workaround, and that
Yep.
could be an area where it's actually really beneficial for them to keep that 10%. I don't know if that is the way it's going to go down, but hopefully that is, because they need to start doing some things immediately. If they're going to, Brinkett being probably the number one priority on that. If there's, something that they can get done with him, or if they're going to trade him, they need to start working on that now. And I'm sure Dorion is already doing that. But again, if they have another GM in mind, maybe they want his hands on that move. I don't know. Guys, that's a hard thing to know, right? You don't know what they're really gonna do or what they're thinking as far as who's gonna be the GM, and that guy's gonna want to have his say. I don't think at this point they're gonna start again telling Dorion what he can and can't do as GM. It's either they're going to let him go and that's that, or they're going to say, hey, you are our guy, so do what you think is right right now. So I don't know.
I feel like I just want to pose this question. Does everyone feel there needs to be change? Like, let's say the ownership group comes in and they say, hey, look, we just purchased this team. We got a lot of things to think about. Let's just give Dorion and DJ Smith, who both are under contract for this season, let's give them a year and see how this goes. How do people feel about that?
If you're asking me, I'm kind of, it's kind of weird to say, but I'm almost a little indifferent. To me, I want the new ownership to do what they want to do. That's the thing that I'm excited about. I think if they want to make changes, friggin' right. Let's go. Let's see these changes. Let's make it happen. Let's get these new eyes on this team and let's go that way. But if I'm just thinking about, the work that they've done already as far as Dorian and DJ goes, I'd be fine with keeping Dorian. DJ, I love the guy, but I truly feel like that team needs a new coach. So I'd be happy if they, moved on from him and went a different direction. It's got somebody with a little more authority in there. A little less of that fun uncle action, a little more, boys, this is what we're doing. This is how we're going to do it. If you don't do it, you're going to be held accountable.
Well, and this is, I think, an answer that is pretty obvious, but I don't think it's ever happened before. I think it's too messy. Yeah.
Well, Andrew Burnett just did it recently, right? Where he went, but it was a different team, I believe. Right?
Yeah, it was a different team. Yeah, that's the thing. That's different.
You know who the man is to ask about something like this when you're looking for behind the scenes action? Who else than the man who just got off a red-eye flight yesterday, back on our nation's land? It's Ian Mendes from the here with us. Ian, how are you doing today, sir?
Guys, I got 4 words for you.
Ooh.
The streets don't miss.
Yes.
Don't miss. Coming in hot. Ian, how did you find out about it without giving us your sources? But what was your initial, how did Ian Mendes wake up this morning and find out that the Senators were sold?
Well, I woke up at about 4:45 this morning because of the time difference. I've been in Italy the last 12 days.
Nice.
So I was up super early, like before 5 o'clock. Went to the gym at about, and I tried to go back to, anyway, went to gym at 9 o'clock, and I saw the Sportico tweet. That the first one, and you know what? I always knew that Sportico was going to be the outlet that broke this, only because if you go back and look at the way that this story has evolved, Sportico has been the first to report everything, right? Like everything, like in terms of the procedure of the process when they first put it for sale, when all of these things. And there's been some other terrific reporting. Don't get me wrong, but they were, for whatever reason, they were always going to be the one I felt like that was going to have it. So they had it, and then I was literally on the exercise bike at Movati, where I usually, by the way, work out next to Mark Mathot, but Meth wasn't there today. But I was on the bike all morning, just trying to text people, try to get some confirmation. And that's kind of how it, between 9 and 9:30, that's what I was doing this morning.
So you just missed him because at 10:17,
I was going to say,
I said, I'm at the gym. He can't come on. So,
okay. So yeah, usually Meth will be there. Like I get there usually around 8:30, 9 o'clock most mornings. And Meth is usually there shortly after 9. And, but yeah, and I like to say I work out with him, but I mean,
is it motivating though? Like, is he still doing the NHL workouts? I feel like he's a hardo at the gym.
Oh yeah, totally. He's a complete, he looks like to me like he could play still in the NHL. Right?
Have you seen him on the outdoor rink? He can play.
Yeah. No, he's
just those knees. Just a little worried about those knees.
Can I pour you a glass?
What's happening here? Wait, first of all, why are you guys in? How come Martian and I are the only guys in hats and t-shirts, and you guys are pouring champagne in his suit?
This is the Locked On Senators business podcast.
Okay,
he's even wearing his business watch.
I'm wearing my business watch.
That means something's going down.
Yeah,
we are to be taken very seriously.
Ian, when's the next move going to be made? Like we're speculating here that because the Melnyk sisters are keeping 10%, that maybe there's going to be a workaround that if Andlauer wants a change made, he doesn't have to wait until he officially has the keys.
So this is going to be a really interesting, and only because we're getting close to the start of a new NHL calendar, right? Like, which is June 28th is the draft, July 1st. To me, you don't pay $950 million for an entity and not have control of it at the most critical juncture of the season, right? Like, would you guys agree with me on that?
Yes,
so
definitely.
I don't see a scenario in which Michael Andlauer isn't able to put his imprint on this team at the most critical juncture of the. Now, whether or not that happens officially, unofficially, I just don't see how you could pay $950 million. Oh, by the way, you have to wait 10 weeks to really. And meanwhile, all of these things go by: free agency, the draft, opportunity to move players, hockey operations, all that stuff you want to do. So As I was looking at it too, I think when the Pittsburgh Penguins were, and I think it was Pittsburgh, like the process to approve the Penguins was like 2 weeks.
Yeah, it didn't
2
seem
weeks.
very long.
No, like I think it was like November 29th or something. They announced they've been sold in principle to Fenway Sports, but within 2 weeks, the keys were given. And what's interesting is when the Penguins were sold in 2021, first of all, that came out of nowhere, right? Like I didn't even know they were on the market. Like,
Yeah.
But in the initial release, the Penguins announced that they were keeping, certain people in their positions. And we haven't seen that yet out of this. But it's early, right? It's still early. But I'll go back to, I just don't see how you pay close to $1 billion US and not have control over the team at arguably the most critical juncture of the summer.
And the thing would be, and we kind of discussed this, is who would block them from doing things, because the Melnick sisters are still 10% stakeholders. And at this point, I don't think Anna and Olivia are concerned about who's going to be the newest fourth line winger. Like, you know what I mean? So I feel like at this point, it's like, all right, we have a deal in place. We believe you are the owners of the team and you have the best interest of this team. If there are moves you'd like to do, why not do them? Now, would Michael Andlauer's involvement with the Montreal Canadiens, would that be something the NHL would say, hey, the draft is here, maybe as an owner, you have information and there's a conflict of interest there. Would that connection hinder them doing something right away?
Yeah, and I see that comment coming up in the comment section here, right? Of hey, there's a conflict of interest, and yeah, absolutely, you can't look at the Brad Treliving situation, for example, where Brad Treliving cannot run the draft for the Maple Leafs because he's got proprietary information on Calgary, right? I don't think if you own a 10% stake in the Montreal Canadiens, though, that you would necessarily have proprietary information on. I don't think so. I could be wrong, but I doubt it.
Yep.
So there might have to be some checks and balances. And maybe if you are the Montreal Canadiens, maybe you do say, hey, I'm a little uneasy about somebody who's a part owner of us going to – but I'm sure, again, there's got to be some workaround solutions for that. I think it's a valid point. It's absolutely a valid point. But I just don't see it being enough of a hindrance to stop him from – pursuing trades or doing the things that he'd probably like to do.
Yeah, I think if it's 2018 and the Habs are drafting third, the Sens are drafting fourth, or maybe even if it's flipped even more so, maybe you're like, oh, I don't want him at the draft table. He knows what we're going to do. I just don't see it as that much of a competitive difference, especially where the teams are at. Like they're in two different lanes right now, with the Habs looking at futures and the Senators trying to figure out how to get a winning product on right now. I'm really intrigued what the next move is. Ian, can I interest you in a tinfoil hat with Patrick Waugh's press conference stepping down today? How about the timing of that?
Yeah, and I know, look, there was a lot of rumors around, and I was away for the Memorial Cup, but I was, kind of paying attention. I saw Darren Dreger and Dreg saying that, his belief was at least one of the ownership groups had toyed with the idea of thinking about Patrick Waugh. And yeah, obviously, when you see the timing of it, it's interesting, isn't it? Like, he steps down. But I think the feeling was, even when he won that Memorial Cup, that he was probably done coaching at that level anyway, right? Like, wasn't that the feeling that...
I think he had made that clear. I think he announced it. Did he not, Ross? We talked about that.
Yeah, he announced it, but the timing that he was able to be asked about Michael Andlauer at his conclusion press conference, like, it's just hilarious how it worked out to be on this day of all the 218 days this team's been for sale.
Totally. But I mean, he did say that he hasn't had any conversations, right? Like that was basically his like, I haven't had.
He says, I know him well. I'm not sure if he'll call me, but he's a really nice guy. That was the official quote.
Yeah. And it's, I don't think you have to have much of a tinfoil hat for this one, right? Like it's easy to make the connection and connect the dots here of how this might work. So look, this is going to be, I think this is going to be a fascinating time for Ottawa fans. But finally, like, I think you get the ownership group that this city deserves, right? Or that this market and this fan base has deserved, which is somebody who I think from the outside looking in seems like somebody who's really passionate on the hockey side. Like, here's one thing, and Martian, you would know because you're super connected to this, and both of you guys are, all three of you have been really connected to this process. And I think the one thing you would probably agree with me on this, out of the remaining groups, Michael Andlauer always seemed like the one who was least looking at this as a real estate play, right? Like, didn't you feel like this is the one guy who was like, I legit want to win a Stanley Cup and I want to have my fingerprints on a Stanley Cup and I could put a team together. Whereas I think some of the other groups maybe were like, hey, let's look at this from a real estate angle. And this isn't his area of expertise, right? Which is where I think he'll really lean heavily on Claridge Homes in this market to navigate some of this real estate stuff. But I almost think that Michael Andlauer looks at this and says, let me run the hockey team and let Claridge or somebody else, you can let, obviously I'll consult on this, but this, he's here for the hockey. And I'm excited today that the owner of the team is super invested in the team. And I loved, you know what I loved in his statement he put out today? There was one word that Mike Andlauer, it wasn't in bold, I think it was in italics, community.
Yeah.
Like in his statement, I think the word community was italicized. That's the one thing that we were missing in the last 5 or 6 years, that feeling of attachment to the community, right? This previous regime, it broke a lot of ties with businesses, with sponsors, with fans, with their own charitable arm of the organization.
Yeah, even internally, right? All the staff, like what kind of relationship did they have with ownership? This is what I've heard about Michael Andlauer, is that he's such a personable, real, down-to-earth guy for somebody who is as wealthy as he is. Yeah, he's going to walk in there and he's going to form relationships immediately with the staff and the people who work there, even the players, right? And they're going to want to buy into the culture that he's going to create and the community internally for them. And then it's just going to expand beyond that to the fans and to us and to you, Ian, right? The media. It's going to be really fun to see how it goes down. But I'm thinking very positively right now about how he's going to go about things. I think he's definitely, like you said, he's the one who's going to be the most interested in bringing a winning hockey team to the city, which for me as a fan is the first and foremost priority. I know that we definitely need and want a downtown arena, but if they succeed on the ice, all that stuff's going to come with it, right? It's going to be a bit of a domino effect, I feel like, with that.
They could play in Barhaven if they win, for all I care.
Honestly, me too, Ross. Like, as a fan, I just want to see the Sens win.
Cheap shot, and you're in Barhaven, aren't you?
Oh my God! You're telling me I can walk down Strandherd or maybe up Woodruff and watch a Sens game? I'm in. But you guys are right. Like, if you go back to when this team was really humming in the early 2000s, there weren't that. Look, we all complained about the arena, but it wasn't like the worst thing. It wasn't the worst thing in the world. Like, winning,
we still filled it.
Yes, winning cures everything. And I'll say this: as much as we think that a new arena is coming, at the earliest, I think an arena that we will, like the four of us could be sitting in a new arena and watching a game. The earliest I could see it would be like the fall of 2027.
Yeah,
and that's early.
Yeah,
like that's okay. So here's what I think. I think if this team wins the Stanley Cup, it's going to be in Canada. That truly, I think they're entering their 4 or 5 year window of contention now. Like now, it starts now. And I think that the 4 or 5 years that we have here, I think this is your chance to win the cup. Is it not? Like I kind of feel like you can win a Stanley Cup in Canada and no one's going to care. No one's going to care. I wish we won this at LeBreton. Who cares? Like you said, play in Barhaven if you win a cup. Nobody cares.
Yeah, and I honestly think that would almost be poetic, Ian, because
the last year in the building.
The last year in the building, the last game. Imagine they win it at home, the last game, and then some. Like, I would love for the Stanley Cup to be a part of like the construction of the new building somehow. Like, that would just be incredible. And you know what? Like you said it. Like, obviously, the building being Canada, not ideal, but I personally have a lot of fond memories there. It feels like it matched with the Ottawa Senators. Like, everyone was like, oh, this team doesn't have a downtown arena. The traffic's horrible. But Sens fans didn't care. Sure, you go to the washroom and there's practically ice pouring out of the taps and it's freezing cold.
There until you get the freezing cold water. That's honestly like the shock that you're home.
Yeah, you don't know what to do after the game, but it was still a spot where all these great moments and memories happen that the CTC will always hold a fond spot in my heart, even if it wasn't exactly the best arena for an NHL hockey
inside,
team.
like, I wish they could just pick the thing up, brush it up a little bit, modernize it. But like, there's not a bad seat in the house. The sight lines are unbelievable. Was it Bill Burr, who's been all over the place? He went to a game and he's just like in awe of how great once you walk into the arena it is. Like, and he's seen his fair share around the world. So I mean, obviously I grew up going to games there. I still remember Jeff Friesen breaking my heart there in 2003. And now you're at a stage where it's like, yeah, we need a downtown rink, but like, let's make the most out of the one we have for now. And that's just exciting times right now. It really does. Ian, does it feel to you right now like it's a new era of Sens hockey, just with the snap of a button here with the team putting out the tweet?
Yeah, it does, right? Like, and I think this is going to be for all of you who suffered through 2018, 19, 20, all of that stuff, all of those really bad years. And I don't blame anybody who jumped off the bandwagon or felt like they didn't want to. I'll never.
The wagon was on fire for years. The whole thing. And the wheels were falling off.
I'm not going to sit here and say you weren't a real fan for sticking with it. But here's what I will say. I have nothing but respect for those who did. For those of you who stuck around for the 2017, 18, 19, 20, all of that stuff, for you to be able to experience it. What is this? The TMZ is putting out.
TMZ is reporting. I had to pull it up. Oh. TMZ's getting on it. This is the last that we'll probably see of this one. Put away the celebratory joint. Snoop Dogg will not be the next owner of the Senators. I got to give them credit for that headline. That's all time.
That's you know what? Out of all of this entire process, I'm going to remember that, having the ability, I had a chance to interview Snoop.
Yeah, like, that's awesome.
You know what? Like, think about
that's
that.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, like, it's pretty unbelievable. So this whole thing has been surreal. But look, out of it, at the end of the day, too, when you think about this, so many of these bids, whether it was the Kimmels had the weekend, obviously Ryan Reynolds was connected to this, and Snoop. At the end, there isn't a celebrity attachment to this, and yet I don't get the sense that the fans are feeling any sense of disappointment. In fact, if anything, I would say that the Andlauer bid, in some ways, it's the perfect encapsulation of Ottawa, isn't it? Like we don't need a celebrity. We don't like.
Yes.
Would it have been nice? Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Like, yeah, unbelievable for growing the brand. But really, at the end of the day, that's not. We needed three things in Ottawa. We needed a capable, competent, and committed owner. That's it. The three C's. That's it. Like,
it's crazy too that throughout this whole process, Andlauer was the one who was the quietest throughout all this when there was so much PR noise surrounding almost all of the other groups, right? With Remington and Reynolds, the Weekend and Kimmels, plus Salter when he came on. They all made little splashes all around. Nico Sparks with all the people that he added to his group, all the big names, right? And Andlauer was the only one who was strong and silent and confident throughout the entire thing, which is kind of interesting, right? And I think that points kind of back to his relationship with the NHL, is he knows what they like and what they don't like. And, for him to just stay silent throughout this whole thing and not get caught up in the pizzazz of trying to add a celebrity himself, it was a pretty good way to do it, obviously, because in the end, he ended up winning the bid.
Yeah. No, it's just, you know what? It feels like a great, now I understand why you guys were in suits, because this is,
now you get it, Ian. You get it. Okay, good.
You didn't get the memo, Ian, but it's okay.
Yeah, you and I didn't get the memo. But
I'm cutting off circulation in my neck. It's top button season.
Old Ross let all guests
you gotta go Brian Burke with that, Ross. You just go tie around the neck. What
about the timing? This is my one day off from my other job this week. It's just perfectly timed. I appreciate that from the team. And how about them waiting until you got back from Italy?
Yeah,
when you were on that plane, Ian, on the way to Italy, you did not think this was going to last this long, did you?
Guys, and I was texting with you guys, and I was like, well, this thing is going to go.
Oh, don't give away our sources, Ian.
No, but I was saying to you guys, like, come on, like, what are the odds? Like, I was leaving on June 1st. I was like, this thing is going to sell the day I leave or the day after I leave. Yeah. And my wife allowed me, and I will say allowed me, because I had to ask. Because you know what? We've planned this trip for a long time.
Fair.
And she, like, one day somebody should do a story about how difficult it is to be married to a reporter. It's awful. Honestly, it's awful because news breaks and plans get canceled and weekends and like people don't understand how important it is to have a really good partner or a spouse in this industry. And so when you have to go to your partner and say, what if I brought my laptop to Italy? And and she was understanding of it, but I never really, I was checking my phone and whatever. I never had to break it out, but I was convinced, like, I can't believe this, that literally the day I get back or the day after I get back, this thing is sold. Perfect timing.
As Ali says, shout out Mrs. Mendes.
Shout out Mrs. Mendes.
For sure.
Shout out you for bringing your laptop, but not, just doing it to do it. You were contrite that only if a sale happens is when I'll pull it out.
Yes, that was the deal that we had. And even then, I'll be real honest with you too. I also had 4 pre-written, just quick.
I was going to ask you if you did that. That's so funny.
4 stories written on Apostolopoulos winning the bid, Kimmel's winning the bid, Andlauer and Spark, all 4 of them. And so the story, again, I'll pull back the curtain happily. The story that is up on The Athletic today, I had about 70% of that is written from about 2 weeks ago.
Right.
And then I just went back in, I altered some stuff today to kind of update it with a little bit of new information. But I had to have 4 things ready to go because I didn't know where this was going. I had no idea where this was going.
Oh my God. I love that behind the curtain. So in your estimation, at what point did it become the front runner that it was going to be Andlauer's group? Or did you not really have, not have any chances?
No, I mean, I should have listened to Martian when he said it.
He took the heat for it too. I like it.
But honestly, I think this whole process was, at some point, I really want to do a deep dive on this and try and get some people to open up about why was there was a ton of stuff flying around in the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Like some of it was real.
Way to look about this one day.
Yeah, 100%. Like, or at the very least, like a really good, thorough, long form piece on like how did this all come about? Like, why did Apostolopoulos and Remington walk away? Like, who the heck is Nico Sparks? How did he get to the point where he was one of the last 3 standing? The Kimmels, like I tweeted a couple weeks ago, everybody told me, hey, listen, trust me, I think the Kimmels are out. And I checked in with people close to the Kimmels and they're like, we're in it. And then I had like 3 or 4 people tell me, no, I think the Kimmels are out. And I just didn't know what to believe at any point, right? Like, it was ridiculous.
Maybe they were out without them knowing they were out. I don't like. Who knows how that goes, right?
100%. I don't know what was happening, but these are credible, legitimate people that were speaking. And so, anyway, wild process. I think there's going to be some frustration and anger from some of the. Well, certainly, I think from Apostolopoulos, there's probably some. I think certainly from the Remingtons, there's probably some. And I would imagine from the other 2 that were kind of close to this in Kimmels and Nico Sparks, there's probably some degree of frustration.
Definitely.
That it dragged out this long.
I mean, nobody likes losing.
No, not when something goes for as long as like 250. Was it 218 days?
I think it was 217, but
whatever it is. People are like, if you think you're frustrated as an Ottawa fan for going through this, imagine that you were putting time, money, resources, effort, all of that into this, and now you come up short, right? You're going to be frustrated and angry. So this is going to be an interesting to see this process sort of decompress and see if. But the problem is a lot of this is wrapped up in NDAs, so I don't know that we'll get necessarily. But at the very least, like the one guy that I think is fascinating to me that I haven't had a chance to do anything. Kind of like I'd like to do something on there, like about Nico Sparks. Like who how did he put this together? Like how did he get this close? Was it all a mirage? Was it not? I don't know. I really don't know.
It's wild that our lasting memory of Nico Sparks, and this might have actually been after you went away. Ian, do you know where I'm going with this?
No.
Okay, this is going to be wrapped up in Sens lore forever. So he had that moment where he fired back, and I understand the frustration at that point, where he fired back at a fan, and I didn't think he said anything offside, but just the fact that he was willing shoot on Twitter, but then kind of retracted it. Then his only tweet since then, Ian, I'm going to read it actually word for word because I don't want to misname it. Oh, wow. I have his profile open right here. Where are we going from here? Sorry, he had one other one about AI. But before that, no, it is the most recent one. Does anyone have any recommendations on the best app to learn a new language?
Yeah.
And then he puts out a thing, and everyone in the comments are, let me guess, French. And he replied to each one saying, yes, I want to learn French.
He should have at least said oui.
What? Yeah.
Yes.
Why do you think he wants to learn French, huh?
I wonder how it's going, if he's made any progress with his learning.
Hasn't tweeted out since. So, anyways, very, very like you said, Ian, that's the most fascinating part in all this because he's the only person in Dragon's Den history to sell a product he didn't own to the Dragons. And then he's got all these like very high profile people on board. Like you said during your reporting throughout it, like there had to be something to get Goldman Sachs to represent them.
Yeah.
To get these reputable people, reputable companies to join this bid. So
And to put their neck out like that. Yeah.
there is a lot to dig up on this group. I think you could have a field day. Maybe you just need a few guinea pigs to help you do the digging.
Oh, little Sanderson Pinto guinea pigs?
I don't know. Well, you'd only have one in that case. Go read Ian Mendes on The Athletic for more.
I'll be interested to see how
We
quickly
guessed that, by the way, didn't we? Pills, we haven't talked to Ian since we called that. He had this big story coming.
True. That was your first guess.
I was like, it can't be the guinea pigs. And he had straight face throughout. I was going to clip it, and I was like, he doesn't even react.
Yeah.
Pro's pro. Martian, you got something?
Well, I was just gonna say, like on the topic of Nico Sparks and kind of who he is and all that things. You know, there's a lot of photos on his own website right now of him basically representing the Senators or in front of Senators billboard. I'll be interested to see how quickly that stuff changes. You know, with this not being his bid, that's going to go through. Like his identity right now is potential owner of the Ottawa Senators, more or less, right? Like that's what he's putting himself out there as. So
his Twitter avatar, his Instagram avatar, his LinkedIn avatar, the About Us on the Sparks Finance Group is in front of a huge Sens mural. Like, I don't know. He's clearly been successful in AI development and in producing. It's not like he's going to go back and look for a resume to write. Like he's clearly got a pretty good stance and he's done very successful. Do you think not only the Sparks Group, which we're talking about right now, but also the Kimmel Group, would you be surprised at all if the next NHL franchise that comes up, that both of them are involved trying to buy them?
Well, you would think, right? Like now, especially if you've gone through some degree of a vetting process and the league is comfortable with your financing and maybe like, and these were thorough. These are like criminal background checks. These are financial deep dives. So if the league is comfortable with you, you would have to think on some level, not that you're fully cleared to purchase Arizona or an expansion team, but you'd have to think, okay, like you're in the mix here. And I know that there's the group out of Salt Lake City that is certainly interested in buying the team. There's some other groups, but absolutely, you would think if you were willing to pay $950 for the Ottawa Senators, wouldn't you theoretically pay $950 for any team in theory? So yeah, I would have to think that.
yeah, I think they would honestly, like, if it wasn't for the, you know, already loving the idea of Reynolds or Andlauer and just the different pieces that they brought to the table, I think we would have all been far more on board with those groups to begin with. Because we had our favorites, they weren't necessarily our first choice sort of thing. But I think for any other city, for a potential NHL team to have groups of, you know, with this character and what they're trying to do and bringing that out, I think that they would be an excellent ownership group for any other city. I just think that here in Ottawa, they weren't as, you know, I don't want to say not as accepted right away or not as, you know, I think it's just because we had other groups that we liked better, that the fans, or some fans at least, you know, already had their kind of choice made up. At least, you know, in our case, I think we were already looking at, like, with Remington and Reynolds, we really wanted that to happen. And then as soon as it didn't, we were like, okay, well, let's go for the stable local kind of group.
Yeah, and speaking of that local angle, Ian, I want to get your take on that aspect of it. I want to, well, as I'm finding out who to give credit for this reporting, what's your favorite thing about Farm Boy?
Oh my God, probably the Kayla Mole dip It's the half kale kind of.
I haven't had that.
Yeah, so it's like guacamole, but made kind of with kale. And anyway, it's very good. That would be on my list of best Farm Boy things. And the Farm Boy burgers are elite.
You took it out of my mouth. Yeah, that's where I was.
You go to the butcher at Farm Boy, and
yeah, the ones they pre-make with the they put the cheddar cheese in it or a little bit of
in it. So as you grill it, it's almost like melting.
The poutine burger.
Oh yeah, I don't know if I've ever done that one, but it's similar. I think it has like cheese chunks in the patty itself.
I got a salad bar card that I always get to my whatever it is 10 points. I redeem it. Yeah, I'm a big Farm Boy guy.
I don't know why. Maybe this is just like a family thing my parents always had in the house, but their fresh salsa is ridiculously good. It's
so good. It's Lone Star-esque.
Yep.
You got to think there's going to be a really great food Farm Boy stand eventually in the CTC.
But there already is, isn't there? Isn't there the Farm Boy fresh section?
Oh yeah, there is, but it's
like here's some hummus.
It's not like they're not cooking in there really. I don't think.
No, we need a full out. I want the full Farm Boy, like the hot lunch options that you have. I want that at the CTC. I want buttered chicken in the second intermission. That's what I want.
Is it too soon to reach out for a sponsorship offer to Farm Boy today? Maybe I'll wait a week or two.
No, see, as long as it doesn't affect your Shawarma Palace deal.
No, it does. Shawarma Palace is always the number.
Oh, Shawarma Palace they're the goats.
You know what? We're sending Ian a $50 Shawarma Palace gift. Yeah, this right here. Ian bringing the heat right now.
Yeah.
And you know what? We were saying we got to grab a beer when we're in Ottawa first week of July.
Yes.
You're like, the location might have to be a Shawarma Palace. I mean, come on.
There's no might. And then we're taking a picture.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. No, hey, do you, real quick aside, I do have some more questions for you on ownership, but do you head out to Dev Camp at all?
So when is it the first week of July? Is it right after?
It's usually right after the draft. The draft randomly is on a Wednesday. That leads into Canada Day. So I don't know if they're going to start Dev Camp on the 1st. I know they've done Canada Day things before, but usually it's in the middle of camp, if not later. There's a Red Blacks game that week. We know the prospects usually take in a Red Blacks game if that's the case. But we were told to reach out to them around June 20th, and they'll have their full schedule ready by then.
Oh, there you
go.
Our
plan is to go set up in a back room at the CTC and just do car wash with 10 of the guys.
That would be, you know what? That would be great because I think what fans would appreciate is just 20-minute interviews with prospects that wouldn't necessarily maybe have that platform anywhere else, right?
They're such good guys. Like the Senators say that they've been drafting with the thought that you need to be a good person first, and they've
clear.
Every single person we've had on Pills, like, there's not a bad guy. The only guy that was shy was Stephen Halliday, and he literally apologized to us next time and gave us one of our best interviews. He was so open, so forthcoming, and they're good dudes for sure that they've been able to get in the system. But I love this. I love being able to look back at Dev Camp. What sticks in my mind is the skating drill in 2010, and people are like, "Wow, hardo here," but I'm going somewhere with this. The skating drill in 2010. It's like C cut with one leg up, C cut with one leg up. Nobody fell except for one guy. Mark Stone fell about 6 times. He could not skate, and now he's about to lift the Stanley Cup first as a champion. So just going from seeing a 6th-round pick that literally was Bambi on skates to what he's become now, it's just so cool. So it's fun to see them at the very beginning. So do you ever get out and see them? So,
I've gone last few years. I mean, in COVID, they kind of stopped them, right? They weren't really doing them, but usually I try to get out and do some interviews with the guys. So I mean, the plan for me right now is to go to Nashville for the draft.
Nice.
Scott Wheeler. No,
it's not a bad town. It's not a bad town to go.
It's not a bad town.
Yeah, mock draft coming up next week. Scott Wheeler gave us over an hour of his time. We did picks 1 through 8 with him. He said you guys almost do like the athletic NHL conference and all meet up.
Exactly. So we'll do that in Nashville, and then I should come back that weekend. Whatever. So if there's Dev Camp, I'll be there for sure.
Hell yeah. So what's the plan for the summer? Give us a scoop on a feature you got coming.
Wow, it's the big feature that I've got to do is and it's sitting there. I've got so I spent about 7 hours with Timmy Stützle in his hometown.
Awesome.
A couple of weeks ago, and went for lunch with him and his mom. Just toured around everywhere. He took me kind of to the arena where he learned how to skate, and his elementary school and all that. So I have, I don't know, a couple hours of on the record recording I got to go through with Tim and put that together. And I think it's going to be great. Just a lot about his backstory, kind of where he came. But what I really was more interested in too is, and I told him, I was like, I think I want to know, you need to tell me how $65 million is not going to change you. You know, like how's this not going to change you? So that he gave me some terrific answers and insight and some great quotes. I think Ottawa fans are really going to appreciate about salary for players and trying to build the team and that type of thing. So I'm really excited to put that together. At some point, I'll have to wait till this 2-week window ends here with the ownership stuff. But yeah, that's something that I'm putting forward in July.
Quick follow on that, Martian. I want to get to you, but like, what's the one takeaway while you were leaving Viersen, I believe the name of the town is? What was your one takeaway that you left with?
Like, I'm trying to think. Like, it's just, it's amazing because you drive up. I took a cab to I was staying in Dusseldorf, which is like 25 minutes away from the little town where Timmy grew up, and I took a cab there, and like you're driving, and like 5 minutes before you hit his town, there's sheep grazing. There's this like, and in my mind, I'm thinking, like, this is the place that created arguably the most talented player to ever put on a Sens jersey. Like, I think when it's all said and done, I think he's going to be the guy, if he stays in Ottawa for his career, that his statistical numbers will eclipse anybody's. And right now, like, to me right now, Erik Karlsson's the most talented player to ever play for Ottawa.
I bet you Alfie would say that too.
But I think this guy's got a chance to go 400 plus goals, 1,000 plus points, all of that. Like, he's that good. And so it really struck me, like, coming to this place, like, how did this place create maybe the greatest player in Ottawa history? It's not your typical backstory. So anyway, it was great and I did the obligatory visit of the childhood bedroom, which can be borderline creepy, right? Like, now I've done it with Shane Pinto, and so I got to be careful here. Like, I don't want to get the reputation of being the guy that.
Can I see your bedroom?
Exactly. But it was great. It was so cool. He keeps all the jerseys that he ever wore, like right from the time he was 6-7 years old. All of them are there. His little his trophies are like he just randomly on his dresser has the what year was it now that he won the top forward at the World Juniors?
2020. That was the introduction to Sens fans. That was his first time stepping on the ice after being drafted, because it got the draft got pushed to October, and it was that December.
Yeah. So ridiculous. It's just like on his, like the way we would just have a whatever on your desk is like, you look at it like, whoa, wow, double IHF top forward, and he's got the 3 pucks. You remember the hat trick he scored in Winnipeg in his rookie year? Yeah. The 3 pucks are on his.
That's awesome.
On his desk. So anyway, I'm pretty excited to put that one together.
I'm looking forward to that feature. That's going to be a banger. I already know it. But how's he looking?
Can we
how's he looking? I want to know. Is he look any bigger to you, or has he already been training? I don't know.
But that was just in May, and he was kind of just taking a little bit of downtime. Like I think the way he explained it to me is he tries to take 1 month off. Yeah. And then I think actually this week or last week he started ramping up again. I think he basically just came back to his hometown for a little window. He wanted to spend some time with his parents, and that's what worked out for me to visit. And then he goes to Mannheim, and that's when he trains extensively the entire summer. So I think probably by late August, that's when you might see a little bit of a difference in him. But yeah, no, he looked pretty much the same, because I saw him at the end of April, and then I saw him like 3 weeks later or whatever it was. So pretty much the same.
Did he admit to you that he was battling through something this year? Because that guy had about a roll of athletic tape on his shoulder every single night.
Yeah, so the only thing he kind of hinted at was that like he was a little banged up to play in the Worlds, that he didn't necessarily, because I think he was intrigued by it, like because Moritz Seider ended up playing, and
they made the finals.
Yeah, and Germany made a little bit of a run. So I can guarantee you there was part of him that wanted to play, but I think he kind of felt like Ottawa coming into a year where he's starting an 8-year contract. This is his focus now. Like this is what he wants to make sure he's good at.
100%. By the way, we need a Timmy Superstar reference because TSN's already got you one upped right now with our boy Johnny Abs.
Johnny Abbott. Yeah, exactly.
What a beauty. What a beauty. But man, we're really looking forward to that story. And wait, that was the trip you stopped in Wrexham. Was this like, so you've been to Europe and back twice this summer?
Yes, exactly.
What a guy. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Oh man.
International man of mystery, Ian
And
Mendes.
when you went to Wrexham, had he hadn't withdrawn yet.
No, he did.
You want to talk about the timing?
Yeah.
That was the day I landed in Wrexham. So
I mean, it was probably pretty cool just to go there regardless. Like, I'm sure that was
it was
interesting
fascinating. It was a great story to write, and you could see the impact that he had. But yeah, no, it was literally the day that I pulled in.
Awesome.
I have two more questions, Ian. You've been super generous. Everyone, go check out the article Ian wrote a month ago today on The Athletic about Michael Andlauer. No, updated as of today. And we appreciate you very much, Ian, and look forward to having that pint with you when we come to Ottawa this summer. Two final questions. And just an aside, too, I mentioned that I wanted to give credit and pull it up. And the Malhotra family, which owns Claridge Homes, they have the largest local stake in the Senators. I feel like with the Remington Group, it was a Toronto real estate company that was going to build in Ottawa. So it's kind of cool that for the economy, it's an Ottawa builder that if there's a new rink, they're going to be in the mix.
Yeah. And I know them a little bit. Like, I know Sean Malhotra probably a little bit like better than Neil. But what I think is good about them from a real estate perspective with Claridge, they know the intricacies of trying to develop in this market. Whereas if you had a real estate firm from the GTA, they're not going to be used to the red tape that sometimes is associated with building in this town, with some of the issues that are they're very unique to Ottawa, right? Claridge knows. They know how to cut through red tape. They know how to do some things. And I would imagine that if there is a downtown arena, not only would they, help navigate some of that, more interesting to me as well, or equally interesting, is I think that they would be able to redevelop the land in Canada, monetize that land. Yep. Don't forget, that's about 100 acres, 75 acres of land that people tell me is ballpark. It's $1 million an acre right now.
Yeah.
So that's, around $100 million worth of land that you can develop. And I think it is right now it's mixed like commercial and real estate, but they could absolutely put some homes up there. They could turn that into a shopping center, whatever it is. So I think that's the perfect partner for them, real estate wise, is to have somebody in the city that absolutely knows how to navigate these things.
Yeah, they should be partnering with Larco Homes, but that's not from a biased perspective at all. How many cars do you think that they could park on the CTC grounds if they were to just expand that auto park in Canada?
Oh my gosh, that auto park! What's going to happen? If they move downtown, what's going to happen to that auto park? All the people that park there on game night, right?
Yeah.
No. So final question for me, and I don't know if the boys have one too, but Ian, what do you think the next domino is to fall now that we know that Andlauer is the preferred bidder?
I think it's probably the hockey operations questions. And I think mostly because of the timing of this, because we are basically, are we 14? No, today's the 13th, right? So 15 days away from the draft. 15 days away from the draft. You better have your management team in place, or at least a semblance of it, or be allowed to have two firm hands on the wheel. So that, to me, that's the next, the dominoes that we're going to find out what's going to happen with Pierre Dorion and DJ Smith. Do they stay and get insulated? Do they get removed? Like, there's a lot of moving parts here, but I would suspect that's the next thing that we see.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that all kind of plays out. Ian, final question for me is this the most anticipated season in Ottawa Senators history coming up here? I mean, you've got a team that roster-wise is ready to compete for the playoffs. You've got brand new owners. I mean, it's hard to say with still some big off-season dominoes that need to fall here, but you've covered this team for a long time. How does this stack up with other seasons for you? And I think you might have answered this in a mailbag question, but just for the viewers here.
Yeah, I think so. And I think the way I answered that mailbag question was, I think the most anticipated season in franchise history was the one coming out of the 04-05 lockout. Okay, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One was Dominik Hasek was coming in. and they had a team that was at the height of their competitive cycle, even though they had lost the previous year to the Leafs, or in 04 to the Leafs, there was still a feeling that they had this great foundation. And just before that season started, Hasek was there. They do Heatley for Hossa. They do Brian Murray in for Jacques Martin. And it was a feeling of new rules were coming in, rules that were going to favor an offensively minded team like Ottawa. And in 05-06, remember, they had Zdeno Chara. They had Marty Havlat. They had all of these pieces. And now, after 1 year of not playing hockey, I think that was the most anticipated year, because we went a whole year without NHL hockey. And then you're coming back with the Dominator and Danny Heatley plus Alfie and Chara and Spezza, like young Spezza. Like it was go time in 05-06. So I think that's the most anticipated year to date. But who knows? Maybe if they do some things this summer that make people feel really excited about this being the difference is that was a ready-made Stanley Cup contender.
Yeah.
This is a ready-made playoff contender.
Yep.
And that's a big difference.
Just imagine if they could have added Anze Kopitar to the mix, in the 05 draft. Wouldn't that have been just so cool?
Or Stahl too, right? Wasn't Mark Stahl the other guy?
Yep.
Yeah.
Brian Lee.
Brian Lee, great player anyway.
Hashtag Nodak Sens. Hey, hashtag Nodak Sens. The OG.
Yeah.
Brian Brzezinski.
Brandon
Hey,
Brzezinski.
I don't know why that word just isn't in my vocabulary. Brandon, did you say?
Yeah, weird.
Martian, you got anything else for Ian? We got to this is a busy guy. He's giving us an hour of his time. So nice.
I don't have a final question. I'll let him off the hook. But Ian, great to see you, and thanks for jumping on with us again.
Thank you for him giving you a shout out in the tweet.
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
Huge.
It's you guys are the ones who are really in the trenches working on these things. I just have these nuggets that happen to fall into my lap from the streets. I'm merely a conduit. I'm not putting in any really hard investigative journalism work. So obviously our fan base and we really appreciate everything that you and everybody else is putting into this, actually, breaking this story for real. So
listen, you had, like I said, you had that early. I think it's great. I love, I always love, I say this in all sincerity, when there are a number of successful podcasts, when there are a number of writers, I see Steve Warren is pumping out stuff. That's good.
Yep.
That's good for the market. Let's get more people covering this team. More voices covering the team is a good thing. That's how I feel. I feel like that makes me have to be better, right? Damn, people are beating me on different things. That's good. Make it better. Make it tougher.
Our fan base is hungry to consume content, all different forms of content. It's a highly engaged
510 people watching this right now.
Yeah, but this is what you want. You want more people doing this, more competition, because there's an appetite for it, and it's great. So, hey, listen, I appreciate you guys having me on. And before I go, at the very beginning, you asked if there was ever a situation where a coach was a head coach of a team and then took a demotion with that same team. Okay. I believe Wayne Cashman did that with the Flyers. Late 90s, he was the head coach of the team.
Hell yeah.
They fired him. Well, they demoted him, I think, and Roger Nielsen took over.
Oh.
Okay. And then Roger Nielsen unfortunately got sick, and then Wayne Cashman, I believe, took back over the team. I think that's how it worked. But that's the only one I can think of where a head coach was the head coach and then stayed behind the bench and took a step back as an assistant.
Okay, well, you bring that up, which obviously, Ian, the king of the callback.
Yeah, we knew you'd have that answer.
Yeah. I've got a random sense trivia that I'm just waiting to give you.
Here we go.
Who was the first Senator to get 300 penalty minutes in a season? You know we like tough hockey here at Locked On Senators. Who was the first ever Ottawa Senators player to rack up 300 penalty minutes in a season?
Dennis Viel?
No, that's what I guessed too.
That'd be my guess.
So it's multiple choice. I just I clicked here. I'm not pretending like I had this prepared, and it was my fourth of the four.
So Denny Lambert would be the other guess.
Nope, he was another option. Mike Peluso in his only season with the Ottawa Senators.
There we go.
Still stands 118 penalty minutes and had 15 goals and 10 assists in his only season with Ottawa.
Did Mike Peluso have a 400 penalty minute season with Chicago at one point?
He looked so, not to brag, we did it once, but we took
care of 444 or something.
Well, we went to the Club Bell area in Ottawa at the rink. They have like the tough guys wall. I thought that was so cool, where it's like Mike Peluso's on it, Denny Vial,
McGrattan,
Neil,
Neil, and Karkner.
Oh, Matt Carter, yeah.
Him giving Brian Boyle the 1-2 step was unbelievable in the playoffs back in 2012. And that's called delaying in the industry. Yes, Mike Peluso in 1991-92 with the Chicago Blackhawks, 408 penalty minutes.
I knew. I thought he had a 400 PIM season. So wow.
In 63 games.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, hey, Ian, we cannot thank you enough. Everyone's already following you, but if you're not, everyone, Ian_Mendes, find them at The Athletic. Go support their work. The Athletic, great work. Unfortunate layoffs the other day were no brainer. Everyone would have canceled their subscription if it was you on the chopping block. There's no chance that happens. You're the man. We appreciate you. We'll be checking in with you throughout the summer. And Ian Mendes said it, potentially the most anticipated season in Ottawa Senators history. We look forward to following it with you all the way, and we're really proud to be able to call you a friend of the show. So thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for having me. You guys know I'm a big fan of all three of you. And listen, when you come to Ottawa in July, if you're doing a Locked On get together or whatever, we'll get together. But if you're doing another thing, count me in. I'd love to say hi to some of your listeners and Sens fans. So yeah, thanks for having me again, guys.
Thanks, Ian.
The man, the myth, the legend. It's Ian Mendes from The Athletic as we say goodbye to Ian today. What an absolute beauty. Let's wrap this up with some final thoughts each, because guys, this shit doesn't happen all the time.
Oh, no.
The Ottawa Senators have been sold for the first time since 2003 when they were pulled out of bankruptcy by the skin of their teeth for $93 million with the arena. Did you not hear Ian Mendes say that the arena area itself is worth that much money? Like that to me is mind-blowing stuff right now. If you're the Senators fan base, you have to be completely ecstatic with how this is potentially turning out.
Yeah, I mean, I am ecstatic about how this is turning out, and I think this is a new age. It's a new owner with a new mindset, and this team is ready to compete on the ice. I think off the ice, it's all a trickle-down effect when you're owning a sports team. It all comes from your owner. How do things work? It all trickles down. So I think this is going to be similar to those days in the early 2000s when the Sens were at the height of the league. And I'm just so excited. Like, honestly, I've said this so many times, but if I could fast forward to October in the home opener, I would just pop another beer and start finding my way to the CTC. I wouldn't drive after having a couple morning pops to the CTC, but I would want to get to the CTC for the home opener as soon as possible to see all of the Sens fans and get ready for some Sens hockey.
Well, we're going to do a section again, right?
Oh, absolutely.
That's
absolutely.
No brainer. Like everyone who saw us against the game in Tampa, and honestly, the price of admission was worth it for that sick photo of the four of us with Jack and Martian awesome. and the two of us. And I'm probably yelling at Brian Elliott realistically.
You were.
Brian, is that a stick or a cane in your hand? Let the kids play.
That was
Brian.
a great time. That was a really great time.
We're having a blast, but we're not Club Bell guys. We're Section 319, Section 320 guys. We want to be up there.
We want to be among the animals.
Ooh, that's what it's all about here. So I'm just so fired up right now that the Ottawa Senators, and it's not just an owner. It's an owner who literally, if you Google him, the only photos you see are him hoisting a trophy.
Hockey trophies, yes.
Let's go. Let's add to that friggin' trophy case. Why not? We're already here. We've already been through so much.
And we got a new e-bug now with him too, in case we need an emergency backup goalie. He's a goalie-friendly guy.
No,
you already should have talked about Patrick Wall if he ends up coming in, or you.
Imagine, man. I almost feel like I jinxed the Senators this year because I asked Pierre Dorion when we had him on in September, who's the emergency backup? You, Trent Mann, who he knows a goalie as well, or Gord Wilson? Who's going to play goalie? And frig, one of them might have almost had to.
It was getting close.
He said, I think Zach Burke would probably be the go-to, though, don't you?
Yeah.
The goalie coach. Don't you think the goalie coach?
No, I said when you Google Michael Andlauer, it comes up with trophies. Better than not finding anything when you Google Nico Sparks with Grayson. So let's touch on that actually. Pilsy, where do you think Nico Sparks or his consortium pops up? Like, what do you think we're gonna hear? Like, you know how in politics, not to get political, but the losing party always does like a concession speech. Do you think we're gonna get anything? Or he's just gonna slowly change one profile picture and then another away from the Senators?
Well, I think Nico Sparks' speech will probably be in French and be AI generated, and it'll be promoting his latest movie.
From a dépanneur?
Yeah.
Maybe he can make a movie out of this. This
True.
He kind of use it as a kind of a stepping stone to other endeavors. Whether
starring Michael Spezza.
Martian, I would watch that.
I mean, I would too. I think
like,
that
this
the
is
500 other people here right now would probably
on Sparks Finance Group's website. This is the who we are. It's him standing in front of a Sens logo. Like,
yeah, that's got to change pretty soon too. But also, I'm not too sure how when this website was built to begin with. I feel like it was thrown together pretty shortly after they decided to jump into this bidding process. It just feels like such a phony kind of website. I hate to say
it because it used to have a double and there. It used to say in the investment of sports, emerging tech, travel, and entertainment related business. So they caught that one. But unfortunately, man, I would love to see the Sparks Group own an NHL team. I just felt like with the other options that the Ottawa Senators had at their fingertips,
not our team.
It's just like, yeah, it's something where it's like Michael Andlauer. Sure, where is he? Hamilton? Excuse me. Where is he from? Is he from Montreal originally?
He was born in Montreal, I believe. I know he has a cottage kind of up in the Muskoka's area.
Shocker.
And yeah, obviously the team in Hamilton as well. So
the team in Hamilton, and wait, he's getting a lot of flack. Actually, we should address this.
Who?
Maybe we have to have. Should I see if David Foote is available right now? Because I want to know what the Belleville perspective is. He moved the Belleville Bulls to Hamilton.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, which is very interesting.
Okay, you two chat a sec. I'm just going to call him real quick because if we can get him on, I want, like, is Belleville going to be mad? Because Belleville has trouble getting fans because there's already a Toronto angle in this as well.
No. Let's not get into this right now. Let's stick with positives and we'll focus on
I think that's
Belleville
kind of a non-story, I think. I mean, are people at Belleville really upset with him for that? I think they made out better, I think, with the AHL team, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you would think that, but from being in Belleville, the people were pretty salty about the Bulls not being there anymore.
Yeah, they did get a new arena, though, did they not, since then?
They got a renovated arena. The CAA Center has been renovated to add more seats. I think it had to meet certain AHL regulations.
Yeah.
But I love that the Belleville Senators are there. Like Ross and I worked there for 2 seasons. Belleville is an incredible city.
Yeah. It's the perfect place for a farm team for Ottawa because it's so super close. They can do the same day, zip up in the morning. You're there for the whole afternoon, right? So.
Especially not dealing with the border anymore. I think that was huge. Is the border was becoming.
Oh yeah.
Not.
Let's be real. As say what you will about Belleville, it's a much nicer town than Binghamton, New York.
Yeah, I've never been to Bingo, but hearing the stories, okay.
Let me tell you, much nicer.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's definitely an interesting aspect of it all, but I don't think that's the be all end all or really needs to be a front and center story as of now. There are much more pressing issues.
Yeah, absolutely. And we all should be very happy, I think, with how this is all shaking out. And I'm looking forward to hearing from Mr. Andlauer as soon as possible. I think once we get his first kind of media availability, we're going to have more to go off. And I think we'll get a better understanding of who he is as a person. It's going to be fun to be able to hear his voice talk about the Sens finally, right? Because I think he's been excited about this for obviously at least 200 days since they've been kind of in the mix for this sales process. So it's going to be fun, Pilsy. It's all good stuff. Ross is on the phone with Footy right now, I think, right? So I don't know. I do have to jet here very soon. I have some other obligations that I need to get to, such as my day job. So I got to go in the next 5. But this has been fun.
Yeah, this has been great. I mean, Ross and I said years ago that we would go live if and when the Sens get a new owner, and here it is. We crawled out of bed, busted open the suit jackets. Ross got the champagne. I got a cold beer from the fridge. We got our greatest friends of the show, Martian and Ian Mendes on.
Are you wearing pants?
I got sweatpants on, not gonna lie. Yeah. Ross has bird dog shorts on, so we're
oh, look at that guy.
Ross is ready to play on the Live Tour over there.
Business up top. That's the classic COVID work from home attire that some people were going with, I'm sure. So I love it.
Yeah. And we're just trying to have some fun here. Like a lot of people are trying to be serious about this, but this, like, we're fans. This is a fun, exciting time for us, and we just want to share our excitement with the rest of the Ottawa Senators fandom and with our guy, Martian and Ian Mendes. And this has been an absolute blast.
Pillsy, it kind of blew away my expectations too. You and I were like, hey, let's just go live. Let's see what happens. We said, Martian, did you see the tweet we put out in 2021?
Yeah, I saw that. That's pretty funny.
We're going to do a 24-hour live stream.
2 hours is a pretty good amount of time.
2 hours is pretty good. And Ian did not have to join us. He's a busy guy. The fact that Ian came on, to me, it just speaks volumes to his class and his ability that he just wants to get in with the fan base. Now, as for my phone call with David Foote they're super excited. He said, sure, there's maybe a bit of kind of curiosity based on the fact that the Belleville Bulls left there. But I also believe, and this is just me, this isn't footy, saying that I'm pretty sure that the OHL gave Andlauer the club with the purpose of him moving him. It's not like he bought the club, said, I'm staying in Belleville, and then left.
Right.
I think it had already been decided that the team wasn't going to work in Belleville. So then they hired Andlauer to bring it to Hamilton and bring that transition aboard. So anyways, the official statement from the Belleville Senators, they're very excited. Their goal is to be a competitive AHL team. They believe that makes for great NHL content or great NHL players when you invest in the Belleville Senators. And if you're talking about Michael Andlauer, this is a guy who's been with the Hamilton Bulldogs now for a number of years in the OHL. That's a developmental league. This guy knows that development is how you get players to be their best. So I think that he's going to spend, I really hope. So here's how.
That being said, I think that I could really, now that you've said that, you just kind of gave me the idea. I could really see Steve Staios taking over a role as, really running the operation.
Running Bell, but then
very similar role to what Ryan Bonus is probably doing right now.
Yep.
But I could see that kind of being his first landing spot as
true.
So here's what we're gonna leave it with. Instead of final thoughts, which is too simple, Martian, I want to start with you, Pilsy, as 100% co-host of Locked On Senators. You get time to think about this. Martian, we put our guests on the spot here. What is your wish list for a Sens new owner? What are you hoping Michael Andlauer will bring to the Ottawa Senators?
As far as the hockey operations side goes of things, well, first of all, mending the relationship. I think there is a bit of an olive branch that needs to be let out between ownership and fans. I think for him to be able to build our community a little bit stronger and make more happen in that regard. I'm not sure what that looks like. I think that's a pretty high priority for me, and I think for a lot of fans as well, to just kind of bring those old faces back into the building who maybe haven't committed to coming back and watching a Sens game since Eugene Melnyk was kind of banished as owner, for lack of a better term. And then the other things I really want to see is I do want to see a little bit of change in the hockey operations side of things. I do think that there's been a lot of good, but there's also been a few bad things. And I think that new eyes and new perspectives on this group would go a long way. I'm not necessarily saying right away with the GM or something like that. I think definitely the coach is something that I'd be looking at to change, and just getting some new, experienced people in who can help give a different perspective, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with a lot of what you said there, Martian. For me, the top of my wish list for the new owner, Michael Andlauer group of the Ottawa Senators, is to blend the culture of the Ottawa Senators and the Ottawa community together. It cannot be us versus them type mentality like it has been for so long. It's got to be look, we need the community of Ottawa to build and support the Ottawa Senators. And in turn, the Ottawa Senators are going to build up and support the community of Ottawa. We mentioned it. Like, this is a team where its own charitable arm collapsed and like basically went against them because it wasn't working. And like that's so brutal that can't happen. So the charitable aspect has to get back on track. Community events like the golf tournaments, Fan Fest, Dev Camp, all these kind of things. Open that up to the fans. Get streaming services for those kinds of things. Sens fans want these things. That's why Ross and I are pushing so hard to get to Dev Camp and interview players, because Sens fans are craving this kind of content. Let it happen. Help it happen. Help bring the people back to the Ottawa Senators, because the diehard fans, they've been here the whole time. And I'm not talking down on people that haven't been here the whole time. Just like Ian said, that's not at all what I'm doing. But find a way to welcome those casual fans and have them be a part of this team and have them want to be a part of this team for more reasons than just on ice performance, because it's an incredible thing to have. It's a privilege to have an NHL team in your city. And I just think working with the community and the team, the possibilities are endless.
Guys, how have we talked about this for an hour and 56 minutes and not mentioned the number one thing on everybody's wish list? Number one on the wish list, number 11 in our hearts. Go get Daniel Alfredsson as a part of this group, and everyone will give a standing ovation. It's that easy. Bring Alfie in. Let this guy, who his best attribute as a hockey player was his work ethic and his smarts. Those are the most translatable skills to a front office job. Get this guy helping make decisions of what players to target, what players to bring in. I need Alfredsson to be a part of this team tomorrow. I need it by the draft. I need it right now. You will get a breaking news video when that comes out. When, not if. Need Alfie in the building. Hey, what timing? As Bailey, you try pronouncing that. There's definitely, like, this is such a S-Bond Sens moment right now, Pilsy. Bailey. Okay, perfect. Alfie and Shawarma Palace in the arena. That's what we need. Doc adds a 500 November would be nice. Well, we'll get to the on-ice stuff. The on-ice stuff, I think, follows suit with all these other changes. I think the more important changes are the front office, are the community angle that you guys already both so eloquently put, and the fact that the hockey operations group needs to expand. And that's why I'm not ready to say that Dorian's going to get his walking papers.
No.
Because I think that if they bring in Steve Staios and they bring in a couple other guys, you're still probably one of the smaller overall management groups in the National Hockey League. I think they need to add, not replace, if that makes sense. That they need to just
I like that.
Bring guys in. Add, don't replace. And that's kind of
support. Don't replace.
Yeah, making changes doesn't mean always moving parts out, right? Like it could just mean addition.
Guys, aren't you getting postcast vibes from this? It's so good to have you back, Martian. It's too long.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the invite. I'm always happy to jump on whenever, fellas. So
no, we appreciate.
I do got a jet though. I'm actually I'm late for something else. So thanks for having me on.
Streets are calling.
This guy doesn't know how to roll as a guest on a show, but we know what? Soon you won't be a guest. You're already best friend of the show. We already discussed that. And we're going to make sure that the role is expanded coming in to the next season. The streets don't miss, and neither does at Laleem's Martian. Everyone give some stick taps on the way. Hey, we gave it to him at the start. Standing ovation, please, for
unnecessary.
Martian.
I am merely a conduit for the streets. I am merely a conduit.
May 22nd, he had it. May 22nd, he had it.
All right.
Martian, I'll see you in a little while. We'll see you in a couple of weeks in Ottawa. All the best. We'll talk to you soon.
See you guys. Love you. See ya.
Love you.
That right there, friends, is at Laleem's Martian. And any final thoughts, Pillsy? We're about to go record an episode of Locked On Senators. It's going to be wild. It's going to be wacky. We're mostly going to point people here because Ian joining us really kind of gave what we needed to this show. But what a time to be alive, Sens fans. Michael Andlauer is your new owner. He's got a ton of local investors, Claridge Homes. He's got Farm Boy as well. This is going to be a team that Ottawa can be proud of.
Final thoughts for me is I want to see all positive vibes here. I don't want people coming in and being like, "Wow, this team has this problems," or just focusing on like, "Oh, don't let all the positivity get in the way of this underlying issue or something." No, this is a huge day for the Ottawa Senators and for Sens fans. Enjoy it, celebrate, and get ready for bigger and better things.
What are we getting ready for?
A Stanley Cup contending hockey team.
Ooh, you heard it right there. All right, Pillsy and I are going to go record Locked On Senators. We're going to have some draft rankings. I'm sure you all can't wait for the draft. And we're also going to put a final bow on our conversation. But if you're just joining us, here's what happened today. Michael Andlauer has been the preferred bidder of the Ottawa Senators. Pillsy, what happened with Patrick Waugh today?
He stepped down in his head coaching role
With
to become available.
Oh, very. And the direct quote from Patrick Waugh is that Michael Andlauer is a very nice guy.
Nice guy.
Not sure if he's going to call him, but he's a very nice guy. And we can't wait what's going to happen next. We'll be here all summer long, 5 days a week, Monday to Friday, here at Locked On Senators. Thank you for spending your lunch break with us. Thank you for cutting work to hang out with us. You guys are legitimately the best. We cannot thank you enough. And how we're going to try to thank you is a full episode of Locked On Senators coming within the next couple hours. Responsibilities be damned. We got breaking news here with Locked On Senators for Brandon Piller. Hey, postcast style, can we get some Go Sens Go in the chats?
Woo!
Can we get some Go Sens Go in the chats? And to everyone who thought that it was going to be a different owner becoming the Sens owner, here's what I have to say to you.
I don't even know what he's thinking. He's just a complete brickhead. He's got nothing up there. Bad guy, bad player, but what a joke he is.
Hey, DJ, you happy to hear Michael Andlauer is the new owner?
Yes. Ha ha ha. Yes.
And everybody thinking that this directly means that Pierre Dorion's gone. By the way, Jason Spezza is still available for hire since he resigned from the Toronto Maple Leafs. Plenty to discuss over the next few weeks. Alex DeBrincat, Shane Pinto's an RFA, Eric Brancham is an RFA. We've been holding off doing our cap restructuring episode because we're hoping one of these RFA signs. Now that we know Michael Andlauer is the preferred bidder and that the Melnick sisters are going to hold 10%, that could mean that things start rolling here on the hockey operations side. So make sure you like and subscribe wherever you download your podcast. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been a bonus. This is why you subscribe to Locked On Senators. Hit the notification bell so you know when we go live, when news breaks. Michael Andlauer, welcome to the family. Welcome to the Ottawa Senators. We'll talk to you soon on the Locked On Senators podcast. We're a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.